My name is Luis Espinosa, and I'm the Director for the Office of Evangelization and Catechesis. As we continue looking at the Liturgy of the Word and the different parts of the Liturgy of the Word, we have now come to this next part after the Gospel, and that is the homily. And so we'll be looking at number 65 and 66 in regards to what the homily is and who is to be the one preaching the homily. And so in number 65 from the general instruction of the Roman Missal, we have the following. The homily is part of the liturgy and highly recommended, for it is necessary for the nurturing of the Christian life. For the nurturing of the Christian life. It should be an explanation of some aspect of the readings from the sacred scripture, or of another text from the ordinary, or the proper of the Mass of the day, and should take into account both the mystery being celebrated and the particular needs of the listeners. So we're given already of what the homily should be about. So primarily, or first, about sacred scripture. Secondly, it could be from looking at some other text that is used in the ordinary as a way to explain what we do in the sacred liturgy. Or thirdly, having to do with the proper Mass of the day, especially if we're looking at a day outside of Sunday. So if we're looking at a weekday, if we're having a celebration and we're celebrating a memorial, a feast, or solemnity from the Roman calendar, or even if what the celebration is, if we're celebrating a sacrament. And so that's what we would see as what the homily should be about. Then in number 66, we're given also who is allowed to preach, who is responsible for the homily. And so number 66 says the following. The homily should ordinarily be given by the Priest Celebrant himself, or be entrusted by him to a concelebrating priest, or from time to time, if it's appropriate, to the deacon, but never to a lay person. So here we are told that it's the Priest Celebrant himself who should be the one to give the homily. But in some such circumstances or situations, it is sometimes delegated or assigned to or another concelebrating priest is asked to preach the homily. And that then we're given that option of from time to time the deacon should be also included as one of the homilists. Then it continues in 66 by saying that in particular cases or circumstances and for a just cause, the homily may even be given by a bishop or a priest who is present at the celebration but cannot concelebrate. So in this circumstances, when the priest may be present, may be in choir dress, and is not concelebrating and is sometimes asked to deliver the homily. And so from time to time this can happen. I think of especially after the ordination of a priest, where the bishop may be present, but he is not concelebrating and he's in choir dress, and he may be asked by the priest celebrant to deliver the homily. 66 continues by giving us a little bit more details about the homily, in that when should the homily be preached, be said. And so it says, on Sundays and holy days of obligation, there is to be a homily at every Mass that is celebrated with people attending, and it may not be omitted without a grave reason. And so here we have that requirement that the homily may not be omitted on Sundays and holy days of obligation. Then it continues by saying, On other days, it is recommended, especially on the weekdays of Advent, Lent, and Easter time, as well as other festive days and occasions when the people come to church in greater numbers. Then it concludes by saying it is appropriate for a brief period of silence to be observed after the homily. Again, silence is mentioned here as necessary for us to be able to have some time to recollect, to think, to meditate, because we have already heard the readings taken from sacred scripture, because we have already heard and the homily has been delivered. And so another moment for us to be still, be silent, and meditate. As we're talking about the homily, there's several things that I wanted to share of what the church has provided the clergy, provided the priests and deacons with resources to help. It's no secret that during this past year or so, as we were having listening sessions throughout the diocese, one of those concerns or one of those points that were made throughout the listening sessions was in regards to the homily. So we had both the positive and negative in regards to the homily. We had some of our faithful share that they were extremely happy that some of our priests were dedicating time preparing their homilies and giving homilies that were helpful for them for their daily living. But at the same time, we also had some that said the opposite, that the homilies were not prepared, that there was no connection to sacred scripture, that there was no connection to the celebration of the day. And so again, the homily is something that I think is very important, because it is one of the ways that we teach our faithful about what we believe and what we hold dear to our hearts and what the church has taught for many years. So on the same line of thought, I want to share about what the church has published in the past years. So just briefly want to mention what the Vatican has published, but also what USCCB has published. And so thinking about previous synods that have been had with the Synod of Bishops. Back in 2007, after one of the Synod of Bishops, Pope Benedict published Sacramentum Caritatis, in which he talked about the homily, since it was one of the points of conversation during that synod, which led and it was incorporated into that apostolic post-synodal exhortation in 2007. But then it came up again when they had another Synod of Bishops a few years later, and it was also part of that apostolic exhortation, Verbum Domini, in 2010, about the homily. Then Pope Francis in 2013, in the document Evangelii Gaudium, again mentioned and stressed about what the homily should be. So keeping these three documents in mind, it eventually led to the Vatican, through the Congregation for the the Divine Worship and the Discipline of Sacraments, to publish what is now considered the Homiletic Directory in 2014, to assist the clergy in being able to celebrate to preach the homily well. And so in the Homiletic Directory, gave the clergy first the understanding of what the homily is and the importance of preparation. Then in the second part, helped give the rhythm or the outline of how the liturgical year has been established and to see the connection in the seasons. And then part as an appendix listed quotes from the Catechism that would help connect with every Sunday. And so the homiletic directory is something that I find that is very helpful, even for me as a layperson, as I prepare so that I can participate and know what the readings are going to be about. So that's been a little bit about what the Vatican and the Universal Church has given to the clergy as a help, as a guide for the homily. USCCB has also published several documents. And so the very first document that USCCB published was in 1982. In 1982, at that time, the conference published Fulfilled in Your Hearing, the homily in the Sunday Assembly, as a guide, as a help. And so 30 years later or so, USCCB published another document in regards to the homily. But this time it was published in 2013 as a way to continue or remind everybody about this document, but also to help those who form seminarians, those who form in the ars predicandi, in the art of preaching. And so this document that was published in 2013 by USCCB is entitled Preaching the Mystery of Faith, the Sunday Homily. And then to assist those formators, to assist the clergy, Notre Dame even had a conference to be able to help us as a church be able to talk about and help others understand this document of USCCB. And so for me, it's important that we as members of the church, we understand that the homily should be a moment where the clergy helps us better understand sacred scripture, helps us to understand the ordinary, or even to understand better the proper of the Mass of the day, or what celebration we are celebrating. See, we can quote again the number 65, that the homily is part of the liturgy and it's necessary for nurturing of the Christian life. The homily that is delivered, that is said by the clergy alone, whether it be the priest celebrant, a concelebrating priest, or from time to time the deacon.